Welcome to a new episode of Manage to Retain, where I talk about issues around business for employees, your customers, recruiting, retention, productivity, and profitability. And I do it with my friends, Sherri and Lou. Listen in, you might get a few tips here on how to do leadership better in your business. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Manage to Retain. My name is Vinay Raman, and I am the CEO of a company called Carmo. We take data and visualize it so that you can see the behaviors of humans and organizations, and even your customers. And the whole idea behind that is if you can start to empathize with your people, empathize with people in general, that includes your customers and other parts and divisions of your company, then you can more compassionately act as a leader. But I look at the data side of things. There's another side of that, and that is how do you upgrade yourself as a leader? And to represent that side of the equation, I've got my two friends, Sherri and Lou. Sherri and Lou, how are you all doing?
Doing excellent. How about you, Vinay?
I am super. So do you mind explain to people how you help leaders use these principles to lead with influence?
Mm-hmm. Well, it all starts with understanding where you already are. Right? You cannot get from where you are to where you want to be without really fully knowing where you are. And so what we do is we utilize the tools, resources necessary to identify that, whether it's data, starting the data process that you do, but then identifying and be able to read that to say, hey, this is where you are, and these are the gaps that needs to be filled. Once we do that, then we can understand what it is that needs to be brought to your awareness, what needs to be educated, what needs to be elaborated on, so that you then can be more effective in whatever it is that you're intending to do. But you have to understand that first, right? Where are you starting from? What is your intent? And then we can come up with a game plan, understanding what principle needs to be followed in order to lead with influence in a way that accomplishes the bottom line that you're trying to achieve.
So I don't think anybody, at least I can't think of a lot of people, who get up every day to be a leader and say, hey, I want to be a really crappy leader today. I think most people at least start out with the intention of, hey, I want to be a really effective leader, and may get lost in that journey trying to get there, and may get a little frustrated and a little lost along the way. I know that applies to me many, many times. Would you agree that that's probably what happens to a lot of leaders? They kind of just get a little jaded in that process of trying to become effective because it's not very clear how to do that. Is that a fair statement?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not being equipped. We say this all the time where, people get new teams and at being a leader, and they're like, okay, here you go. Here's your new team. And then 6 months later, they get fired because they didn't meet the proper standards and the expectations. Although there may have not been expectations, right? But either way, they always say, it's like giving someone a bow and not an arrow, and then telling them to go hunt.
Mm-hmm. So, you got to be fully equipped. It's being a leader is a relationship business, and in any relationship business, there's baggage, and sometimes we get tied down and weighed down with the baggage, and we have a difficult time working through that process in order for us to understand the value of the relationship.
So I'd like to hear from the audience, those who might be listening in. First, do you feel like your journey into leadership, through leadership, has been a clear process, very clear and straightforward? Has it been murky? Has it been something that you got assistance from others? Describe your experience. Has it been easy? Has it been hard? And maybe a little bit of detail. Is it why? Why do you believe it was murky or easy or hard? I'd be kind of curious. So here's what I'd like to do today. Lots of times when we focus on some of the data and the analytics, I'm going to give you some graphs here to take a look at from a company that was updated today. We've changed the names. But I want to look at some employees, but I don't want to focus on the employees today. Today, I'd like to focus on this idea of leaders and being more effective. I like to talk about blind spots, right? What are the blind spots that's not showing up here for the leaders? So I'd like to share my screen, and I'd love to hear what you all have to think about this. Give me a moment here. Can you all see my screen?
Sure can.
So we've changed some of the names here. We've got this person named Eric who works for this company out of this particular branch. The average person in this role has got a 51 Eric has got a 61. You can see the greens where they do really well, their efficiency as a person in this role, their priority alignment, their alignment with their boss in terms of the alignment with the purpose and the cause of the company and what they're supposed to do is actually quite high. But tech referring, which is all about inside sales, they're going and doing providing some service to a customer, but they're getting a very low rating there. But look, generally speaking, you can see this blue area represents Eric, and this gray is the average employee. Eric is actually doing really well, generally speaking, or better than average, except this one area. Sherri and Lou, actually, let me ask the audience first. I'd love if you have any initial reactions to being able to see this. This was updated just actually a little earlier today. Do you have any initial reactions? Is this an A plus employee, B, C, D? I'm kind of curious what letter grade you would give to this employee. Please type that in the comments. I'd love to see what you think. Before I ask Sherri and Lou now, what do you all think? What do you think is the blind spot for this leader of this individual?
Well, I think a lot of our blind spots lie in the realm of what we don't know. Right. We use a phrase a lot. You don't know what you don't know. And I think that's really that should be the North Star of us as leaders is what is it that we don't know that we need to know? And in this case, there is some awareness or some knowledge that this person is not fully aware of when they're not hitting the mark at all in one area of what they're being measured on. And just like in anything else, we know we're being measured. So then we understand high level what we're being measured on, but what do we need to know in order to mark that measurement? Now, if we were to not even see this graph right now and just saw the overall score of this person, and if we just block out that graph, right, and just see, 61 and the overall the company's 51, immediately their managers are like, well, they're rock star, they're great, they're well above. But if it isn't for the detailed data, we're not going to be able to see the gaps here. And realistically, I'm willing to bet that Eric's gap is he's not sure, doesn't know what he's not being effective in when it comes down to this particular level of tech referring.
So I'm hearing two things from you. Number one is I'll talk about myself, right? I'm looking at the camera right here. That means while I believe that there's some stuff behind me, I don't actually know. It's just I'm making an assumption at this point in time. There could be a fire-breathing dragon behind me. I don't think so, because one hasn't shown up in the past, but there could be something behind me. And as a leader, right, I have things that I can see all the time from my perspective, and all the stuff that I don't know is the stuff that is kind of in my blind spot. So two potential things here. As a leader, I have a blind spot, maybe in this whole tech referring, the sales area. Maybe that may be something I'm not very strong at, or I'm spending a lot of my time emphasizing these other areas and not so much in that one particular area, to which Eric doesn't necessarily know that he needs to ask or doesn't know how to do. So they're kind of potentially compounding on each other. And that's why we have such a drastic issue. I mean, we've got all these numbers that are all really relatively high numbers. It's this one that's really dragging it down. Did I kind of encapsulate and distill what you were saying there?
Yeah, and I think another trap of leaders is sometimes, and let's just assume Eric is a leader, right, is that we tend to look at what we're doing and we find someone in our team that might be better at what we're not good at, which is really good. We need to do that. However, perhaps Eric's also relying upon somebody else on his team to raise the number for tech referring because he doesn't like to do it. So you're right on being able to not really see hindsight, not be able to see really in the rearview mirror here of what it is that he is not doing or not knowledgeable of in order to be effective in this area.
That's why we have
knowledge gap. Is that what we would
It could be. Yeah, it certainly could be a knowledge gap of some kind.
Yeah, I mean, I know lots of people, and myself included, who generally I don't run towards confrontations. There's some people who do, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I don't run towards confrontations, as soon as I start to, my confrontation radar starts to say, hey, there's a confrontation, I just start to think about what are my other alternatives, and I start to run away from it, whether it's actually a confrontation or not, because I haven't gotten into the confrontation. I don't like to get into shouting matches with people. But if I start to see it, I'm already starting to say, so hold on, I'm starting to kind of try to drop down the level of anxiety and everything.
because I don't want that confrontation to occur. So it's already a blind spot that I'm changing my behavior based on sort of past narratives. And it doesn't mean that I'm bad so much as it's who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to shift this one a little bit. So let's go back to assuming that Eric is an employee. Let's go take a look at another employee under that same leadership structure and see if we can see a different person here. I'm just going to pick Nathan. Okay. So Nathan, very conscientious driver, efficiency is about average. Employee experience is feeling like he belongs to this company and feeling like he's being treated well is good. His net promoter score is customer service score is below average. Priority alignment, he's right on par with everybody else. Then you can see these areas, not so much. I'd be curious from the audience, what do you see? Is this an A employee, a B, a C, a D, or an F? I'm curious. Please type it into the comments. And I'd love to see what it is before Sherri and Lou. What do you all think? So now we've seen Eric, and now we've seen this person. Is there any trend that is starting to pop up for you for this leadership of this team?
No, certainly is, right? The focus is similar, even though the points are a little higher because there was a little bit more of the pullout on this graph and some of the other components or KPIs that are being measured. But realistically, compared to Eric, the other person, Nathan and Eric, tech referring is certainly the challenge here. It seems as if there might be some type of trend within the team that doesn't know or focus enough on this particular KPI.
Yeah. So I want to look at one more just to kind of throw another monkey wrench in the mechanics here and see if we can kind of test this theory as it's evolving. So I think we did Eric, we did Nathan. Let's here, I'll pick in Brad. Different, right? Efficiency is high, tech referring is high, but driver behavior, employee experience, and this net promoter score are low. So same manager, but this person has got a different bias. Is there any rationale that kind of goes through your head as to what might be happening here?
Well, it's twofold because so far everyone else on that team doesn't do well in tech referring except for Brad. So it's one of two things here that are happening. What is the focus? And almost now that we're seeing all of these individuals, it seems like the focus really is the overall performance of the team and not individual performance. Because you take the overall performance of the team, we may have a pretty well-balanced team because you've got some that are super good in all these other areas. Brad's killing it in tech referring. And then you look at the team as a whole, balance it out, like these guys they're surpassing the company roll score. This is a great team. We're not going to do anything with this team. This team, leave them alone because they're performing well. But when you break them out individually, you're going to see, oh, well, Brad's actually really good here. This one's really good here. This one's not so good here. Oh, and these couple really aren't really good here. But together they actually make the overall number look fine. So this is what's important about finding these gaps, doing them individually. Now we know if we were to take and button up Brad's gap of the NPS score, the other three we just looked at that need work in tech referring, and we actually stretched that, and the other one was a little bit in their skills assessment, but we take that and we up level. All of a sudden, we're going to not just up level their overall score. That's going to impact the company roll score. And so now it's going to change it dynamically. So again, that's kind of an overall view of there, but just to kind of see the dynamics of this team, it would seem to me that they're working the numbers, if you will, with one another.
So let me say that another way to distill what you're saying. And I'd be kind of curious from the audience if you're seeing this kind of as well from the three graphs that we've looked at so far, the three people. This management team is using a one-size-fits-all approach, right? Kind of like the hat that's one-size-fits-all. I mean, I got to tell you, most of those one-size-fits-all, I don't think my head's particularly large, but I get headaches from them just like around the temples or stuff because I'm wearing them. Because, yeah, it may fit, but it doesn't fit very well. Mm-hmm. And I think what I'm hearing from you is they're managing as a team as opposed to per individual. And therefore, you've got these people who are individual outliers. You have two who need attention here, but this individual, he needs attention over here. But they're not getting what they specifically need. And my what I'm going to push back to you and say is, isn't that more complicated to do that, to try to manage each one of those people as individuals? Let's say I've got 7 people on my team. Doesn't that make it more complicated?
Well, I mean, I want to do a reversed question. Doesn't it make it more complicated to address everything in your car engine instead of just the whole thing?
That's right.
One thing fails, we got to address that one thing in order for it all to work well.
That's right.
And so it's the same thing, right? If we look at our team and our business as a machine, then we're going to look at it very differently. Every part of the machine needs to operate effectively, needs to be able to be led effectively and differently. They're going to have different ways and different places to be put in order for it to really work effectively in total. So
Right.
That's how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, if your right rear tire is low on air pressure, you don't go change the oil, right?
Yeah,
Right. You don't need to change the oil by just putting air pressure, right? This is the right rear tire, so put some air in this, and the oil is fine for right now.
that's right.
Well, I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and the reason why is because I'd like to kind of circle back. I think what I heard is that in order to be effective as a leader, it's more about your, again, 2 words, clarity is being able to see the picture, and resolution is sort of the definition of how you see that picture. I mean, people talk about 4K and 8K TVs. Gosh, you can see so much clarity in the picture, but the resolution gives you such a rich picture to look at. I think what I'm hearing from you is that now that we have tools like these graphs, and there is a free assessment that you can use that I've been able to put together because Sherri and Lou have given me the intelligence to do that. It's an employee to supervisor assessment tool as well as a leadership assessment tool. Put them in the links. You can take tools like this to find out at a high degree of resolution, where do I need to be paying attention so that as a leader I can be effective because I'm addressing each part of the engine that needs to be fixed or remedied. And did I say that the right way?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would think too. Yeah, so that was well said. Very well said.
You've got those 10 principles. We talked about the equipping principle, giving them the bow, but not the arrow to go along with it. I think that's actually kind of what I'm hearing here, right? We haven't really equipped our people in the case of these visuals. We haven't equipped them properly because we're just giving them all bows, but not the arrows that they need. Is that, am I using that principle? Tell them about the principles, because I don't know if I'm doing justice to it.
No, that's right. That's how that principle is. You can tell we've worked together for a little while, so you got it, man. But no, these 10 principles that we have designed and come up with are principles that we believe every leader must follow to lead with influence. These are ones that we've narrowed down to realize that anything that you do as a leader can be tied into one or more of these principles. And the equipping principle is one of those, and as leaders, we have to ask ourselves before we actually walk into the office or join on Zoom, whatever we're doing as far as becoming a leader, that we need to have our mindset prepped and ready to go and ready to equip ourselves, equip others as well. And the question to ourselves is, do I coach or mentor those that I move into different roles? Do I coach and mentor those that I lead? If you do that and you equip them, then what's going to happen is all of a sudden now the team is going to have a different dynamic when we're looking at them independently. Just as we do a car engine or any kind of a machine. While they're people, we don't want to drive them like a machine. You can't just put gas in them and tell them to go and get her done, right? We got to kind of do a little bit more than that, which we could talk about in a later episode. But in this case, equipping them to do their job well doesn't just necessarily mean providing them the right tool. You can't give somebody a hammer and expect they're going to know what to do with it if they've never used a hammer before, right? We just can't. And same thing with anything else, right? You ask somebody, hey, can you go hand me that screwdriver? Hand me that Phillips head screwdriver over there. They're going to go over and say, what's a Phillips head screwdriver? Never seen a Phillips head screwdriver. Oh, this one right here that looks like a star on the end of it. Yeah, that one. Now they'll always remember once they now know. See, this is what we're talking about. Equipping individuals to do their job well by providing them all the tools needed and how to use them.
Well, I have one ask of the audience, and that is, if you've been listening in so far, I'd love you to give us a rating, right? Was this a good use of your time listening to this conversation? Give us a rating on a scale of 1 to 10 1 meaning it wasn't very useful, and 10 meaning it was highly useful for us. I'd love for you, if anything, just to ask what you think that number is. Whatever the answer is, that's perfectly fine. Just type that in, 1 to 10, 10 being highly useful or highly effective use of your time. That said, thank you for taking some time to listen in. If you'd like to get those assessments, they're free assessments that'll help you understand what your effectiveness as a leader is, or how your people feel about you. Just type in assessment into the comments and I'll be happy to send those over to you. I created those through the intelligence and the experience that Sherri and Lou bring to the table. I'll also put them in the comments as well, so you can go and take a look at them as well. That said, thank you for spending some time with us today. But more than anything else, Sherri and Lou, as always, I appreciate you taking some time and effort to explain what you all have learned in the world of leadership.
You got it. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Yep. See you soon.
Take care.